What's going on, everybody? I'm super excited to share today's recipe. It's this flank steak and snap pea skillet that tastes just incredibly good. I mean, there's just something about Asian flavors that are just next level, and you can't find it in any other types of recipes. It's that sweet umami flavor that I just simply cannot get enough of. So with all that mouth-watering talk, let's jump into how to make it. Alright, so we'll start today with our rice, just get that out of the way. So nothing unusual here. We'll add in 300 grams of washed white long grain rice, or whatever kind of rice you have, to a saucepan. We'll let this toast for a second, and then we'll cover with the recommended water amount. Now, give it a good stir and distribute everything evenly, and then we'll just let it simmer until it's done. And then after about 8 to 10 minutes or so, my rice is starting to come together nicely, so I'm going to fluff it up just a little bit, and then we'll set it off to the side until we're ready to prep. Alright, so the next thing I want to do is just get my sauce prep for later. So to a mixing bowl, we're going to add a few things. So we'll go in with 80 grams of soy sauce, 20 grams of brown sugar, 2 tablespoons of Sriracha, 15 grams of rice wine vinegar, and then 1 teaspoon of chili oil, or you can use toasted sesame oil if that's what you have on hand. Now let's mix this together, make sure it's all well incorporated, and once there, we can set this off to the side with our rice. Perfect, now we can move on to our steak. So what I have here today is 800 grams of sliced flank steak. And a little bit differently from the carne asada that we made the other week, I tried to slice this steak a little bit thinner. That's just my preference on how I like my steak when I make a stir fry, and you can cut it however you want. But real quickly, I want to add 40 grams of soy sauce, 15 grams of brown sugar, 1 teaspoon of salt, since we already have some salt from the soy, and then 1 to 2 teaspoons of black pepper, just depending on how much you like that. Now we'll give this a good mix, and then once it's mixed together well, we can go ahead and sear it. So to a skillet here on medium-high heat, we'll add in some oil, and then very simply just let our steak start to cook. And we're just looking for color here pretty much. I mean, once we have that, we can go ahead and remove from the pan. And I might note that you don't have to add the soy and the brown sugar to the beef that we added earlier, since we already have it in the sauce. I do it simply because I like that caramelized flavor. I've said this before, but for instance, the soy sauce caramelized on the beef here is going to taste different than it is just mixed in as a sauce. And I really like that seared flavor, so that's why I do it. But again, it's totally optional, so don't feel like you have to do it. All right, now once all of our beef is cooked, we'll go ahead and remove it and set it to a mixing bowl that we can set off to the side. In the same pan, we'll turn the heat to medium, add a little bit more oil, and then toss in 400 grams of snap peas. And we'll hit these with some salt as well. The way I like to cook my snap peas is to almost char their outsides, and then we'll steam them in a second to soften them. So once we have color starting to develop, I'm going to take about 10 grams of water, toss that in the pan real quick while it's hot, and then cover with the lid to let steam and soften for a minute or so. We're not looking to make them mush, we're just trying to soften them a little bit. I mean, you still want to make sure they're snap peas after all. Alright, so once the water's mostly evaporated, what I'm going to do, because I don't want to overcook them, is just remove them from the pan and put them in a bowl, and then we can set this off to the side. Now in the same pan, we can go ahead and go in with our other vegetables, which will consist of 225 grams of sliced red bell pepper, and then 225 grams of sliced yellow onion. We'll hit these with some salt, and then as usual, just let them sear until they begin to develop some color and start to soften and caramelize. And once we get to that point, we'll go ahead and make a well in the center, and then we'll add in some sliced garlic, about 4 cloves, and then 2 tablespoons of minced ginger, which we'll just hit with some oil and just let toast for a second. I tend to like my garlic and ginger more on the raw side in these dishes, so I'm not going to let it brown too much, but I do want a little bit. So we'll go ahead and mix this in once it's where you like it, and now we can start adding everything back to the pan. We'll add in our steak and then all of those juices, and then we'll add in our snap peas. And then what we'll do is just take that sauce we made earlier and add that over everything here. Now, the sauce isn't going to be thick enough, at least for my liking, so we'll just use a standard technique here of adding a cornstarch slurry, which will just simply consist of 1 tablespoon of cornstarch and 2 tablespoons of water, which I just mixed together in a separate container here. So add this in, keep your heat on medium-low, and then just mix everything together. Make sure all those veggies and steak are coated nicely with that sauce, and then once you're there, we're ready to prep. To our containers, we'll start by going in with our rice that we cooked earlier, and we'll just add equal portions across all of our containers, of course. Then we'll start to layer on top our steak and veggies that we got done cooking. Don't worry about getting all of the juices at this stage, because what we'll just do here at the end is just scoop all the leftover juices from the pan and spoon those over the bowls. Trust me, we're definitely not letting those juices go to waste. Absolutely not. And then finally, I'm just going to garnish with some sliced green onion to finish these off, which obviously is totally optional. So I hope this recipe entices you guys and y'all try it out. I promise it tastes super good. And I don't have any concern someone's not going to like it. Well, unless you don't like Asian ingredients, and that might be a problem. But outside of that, it's a wonderful dish. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll be back next week.